Smart things come out. It's nice to reconnect with ideas that gave us something that move us to the next level. There's some problems in the world that are happening right now that this wealth principle is going to solve. Wealth principle number 10 is increase your income through increments and surges. So if you've been struggling to get money up, if you're stagnating, your funds are not growing as quickly as you would like, and you're limiting your lifestyle, there's a chance that wealth principle 10 is actually going to solve that for you today. That being said, welcome back to the 52 Weeks to Wealth. My name is Walter Morello, and we've been on this journey now for 10 weeks, going through 52 wealth principles, one principle per week, with a singular focus of increasing our income, doubling our income and doubling our net worth, and doing it with less time. Show of hands, you're still committed to making more money and doing less work. Excellent. This is the mindset of the entrepreneur. This whole concept of passive income is not something that the average person would think about. In fact, outside of this community, they would call you lazy. They would call you somebody who's trying to hustle or beat the system. Show of hands, you ever been called lazy or a hustler before? Yes, yes. Aren't those badges of honor? It's like, yes, I am a little smarter than you. You're right. I do see the difference between the way I look at things and the way you look at things. So the 52 Weeks to Wealth are designed so we can help you do exactly what you're supposed to do. It's not designed to make everybody in your life happy, except for your immediate spouse, your immediate children, or possibly your parents if you're going to be taking care of them. Show of hands if you got people you care about, you want to have better lives, give better lives. Awesome. All right. In that case, we're going to dive into wealth principle number 10. Now, for those of you who are just coming in for the first time, we've been doing this now for 5 years. This is our 5th year running the 52 Weeks to Wealth and running these wealth principles. These are primarily for people who are looking to get rich. This is not for people who are looking to be average or stay the way they are. This is for crazy people a little outside of themselves who are looking to get to a whole other level, which means we're talking about something called net worth. And net worth is different from just income. We're talking about getting net worth so that it can earn money for us. Show of hands, you've heard of your money earning money for you, working harder than you work. Excellent. So at the beginning, we do have to work hard, and we're going to talk a little bit about the actual strategy behind this. There is a book of the week. We're going to get into that a little bit later. And then later today, Dorian's asked me to do some announcements. Later today, we are going to be teaching Names on Deeds. Names on Deeds is a specialized course for multifamily investors, and specifically small multifamily investors. These are multifamily investors who buy 2 units to 40 units. Anything over 40 units is started to be considered larger multifamily investing. So this is for specifically people who are looking to find deals that are 2 to 40 units, people who are looking to finance those deals and manage those properties. So Vinny Chopra will be coming in, and he'll be talking and he'll be evaluating real estate deals. He'll be using his calculator, his specialized calculator he built just for multifamily, and he'll be showing us some case studies of deals that he's actually purchased. So that happens at 12 o'clock. If you haven't already gotten the registration link, just go to the newsletter that we send you every single week, and it's all the way at the bottom. The registration link is in there. If you don't have access to the newsletter, well, you've made a mistake. You've made a few mistakes in your life, but this big one can be solved. Go to iBuildMillionaires or go to alchemistnation.com and just join the newsletter. Once you've clicked and registered, we will see you at 12 o'clock, and we're going to dive all the way into it. I will be personally teaching, and I'll be showing how to raise capital, and I'll be teaching how to evaluate real estate deals and why real estate investment in multifamily makes more sense than single family. Show of hands if you understand. I have bought single families and condos. I've bought 30, but I don't like any of them. And I'm all on multifamily. Right now, I just closed another 35 units in Decatur, Illinois. And right now we're under agreement on 128, and we're evaluating another 100. And we're just in negotiations on those transactions. So small multifamily is what we're going to talk about later today. Right now, we're talking about your income. We're going to talk about increments, the small amounts, and then surges. There are some problems with slow income growth. The first one is stagnation. Stagnation, slow income growth can leave you feeling stuck with limited financial opportunities. If you've ever felt like, man, I want to do that, but I have to wait till this, that is likely a challenge that is presented because we don't have a surge. Sometimes you need a surge to solve some of the immediate problems. Number 2, a lack of financial freedom. If you're noticing that you are kind of bound and stuck and you have to work X days or X amount of hours with substantial income, passive income, that's increments, you could possibly not have to do that. And then you could be doing something that you actually are passionate about. So fans, there is something you'd be passionate about doing. That's something you'd rather do. Excellent. Okay. Missed investment opportunity. This is the same challenge we had last week when we were talking about net worth. The missed opportunities come from not having money in the bank. not having money just sitting there, not having passive income that you could dollar cost average. Who's heard of dollar cost averaging before? The idea of buying little bits of investments. That is a lot easier to do when you have increments of income just coming in. You could just dollar cost average. So missed opportunities come from a lack of the right streams. Number four is a limited lifestyle choices. Slow income growth can restrict your ability to enjoy lifestyle and do things that you actually want to do. To be, let's say, I go to the gym 3 times a day sometimes, right? A lot of times. I'll admit it's a lot of times. I do legs in the morning. I'll do yoga later on, and then I'll do arms or upper body at the end of the night. So a lot of people do a 75 hard this time of the year. Show of hands, by the way, if you got a New Year's resolution you're working hard, committed, sticking to it, doing well. Dorina started 75 hard. I know Andrew started 75 hard. What I do is harder, right? I go to the gym 3 times. They go 2. I don't drink alcohol anyway. And then I'm very strictly on a diet because I like to see myself live a lot longer. Who here's going to live a very long time? You're committed to long life? Oh, yeah, then we got to make you some money. Let's do it. Number 5 is retirement concerns. Inadequate income growth may leave you worried about your retirement and long-term financial security. So this increments and surges things, we're going to do it in 2 parts. First, I'm going to start with your increments because I believe that's the most important component. With enough incremental income, you'll actually be able to do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whoever you want. That's financial freedom. It's the first step to going getting huge surges. Huge surges of income do take time. They don't happen overnight. They kind of build up over time. It's something that a lot of people have asked me. In fact, I get this a lot, and you may know somebody who's asked this as well. How do I make $1,000 today? It's like, fuck, like, hold on, today, like, well, what relationships do you have? What have you done? What have you already built up and done to make $1,000 today means you have to make some contacts and make some commitments. You have to go do a thing, right? And a lot of the challenges with a person who wants to make $1,000 today is they haven't pre-thought or built those relationships. They don't know what they would commit to a human being in order to make that money today. For those of you who have made $1,000 just at a whim, you know what I'm talking about. If you made $1,000 at a whim, I bet you made $5,000 at a whim or $10,000 at a whim. Just pick up the phone, have a conversation, make a commitment. Show of hands if that's been true for you. Are you familiar with the process? Excellent, excellent, excellent. And for those of you who haven't, $100. Show of hands if you ever made $100 for something. All right, so it's the same process. It's the same process. Just the commitment is bigger. Now, multifamily investing, the reason we choose it is you can buy more units per door, and that allows you this incremental income. Another option for incremental income is subscription services. So you sell something that's $10 a month or $100 a month or $1,000 a month, and that subscription service, you see how Netflix gets you, right? It's like $14 a month. They get you every single month. That subscription service times a lot of people ends up being a lot more money. One of the other options is rental income. That's why multifamily, that's why I like it so much. We're going to be talking about multifamily later today, so it's totally in my head. Rental income's monthly, but it's not small like Netflix. It's the largest expense that a person has. The largest expense, in fact, typically the rent that a person pays is 1/3 or 1/4 of their entire income. It's the biggest expense that a person has, and it comes out monthly, right? The problem with surges is that you have to go and get them again. You have to do work to build up a surge. You have to make a lot of commitments to build up a surge. With increments, you make one commitment many times. It's usually a decent sized commitment, many times, or a small commitment, many, 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 many times. Show of hands, we understand the idea of doing small things often, called habits, right? It like works. With increments, there's a lot of work that leads up into them to get to them, but there is a solution to get both in the same strategy. Show of hands if you'd be interested to do that. Get both in the same strategy. We're going to talk about an investment strategy that Ron and I discovered I discovered it maybe 10 years ago, and I introduced Ron to it 8 years ago, and we've been following this ever since. It's something called pyramiding. And when you pyramid real estate, you sometimes make income from increments, and sometimes you make income from surges, and sometimes you roll the assets into bigger assets. The first step to this is you have to buy a piece of real estate, right? Buy a piece of real estate, and it has to be a rental property. When it cash flows for you, it brings in a little bit of money. You start realizing, oh my God, I like this little bit of income. This is really good. My first rental property was a 3-family. I bought it and it brought in $750, and I lived rent free in the property. Prior to that, I was paying $1,400 a month for a single family home that I sold to buy this 3-family. So now I was living rent free because my mortgage was exactly the same as my rents. So if we understand how that works. So I saved now $1,400 a month. It was exciting. I was like, wow, this is a game changer. I had gotten increments of income that were coming in that now paid for my mortgage. The next property I bought was 6 months later. I bought a two-family right next door, and I used a big down payment that I had taken from my single-family home that I had sold. Right, so I sold it. I made 35,000. I put 10,000 into the three-family, and I put 29,000 into the two-family. And I had a couple extra, 10,000 saved. So that's where I came with the rest of the money. That two-family, I rented both units out for 900 each, and the mortgage was only $900. So now I was cash flowing $900. Now I know for those of you who do larger multifamily, there's no property management included in this. That's because I was the property manager, right? I was so small that I thought that was a great idea at the time. So I had these four rental units plus my free unit that I was living in. I was house hacking. I was doing all the bigger pocket stuff, right? I was house hacking. I was living rent free. I was cash flowing. I was making $900 a month, positive cash flow, and it was going into my bank account. Those were increments. Those increments started getting me thinking differently. I started realizing I didn't have to work as much for my other job. And I got my real estate license. That was the next option was a way for me to increase my income. I was making $70,000 at Johnson & Johnson, and then I got my real estate license as a way to increase my income. Now, I made some mistakes. I wasn't paying attention to my wife. I went through a crazy divorce. Those of you who know my story know my story. I went from broke to a quarter million, but I also went from making 70,000 a year to completely broke, making no money a year because I wasn't a good real estate agent, and I quit my job to save my marriage, and my marriage went down the poopy. And then I ended up with a $17,000 a year in income. Show fans, if you would never want to make 17,000 in a year, that'd be a very bad year. Yes, I went from 70,000 to 17,000. It was not a good way to go. You want to go in the opposite direction, which is why now we teach all of this. Because at some point I had to learn. Show fans, if you've ever gotten so bad at something, you said, I need to master this. All right. For those of you who ever gotten super, gotten overweight, you're like, oh my God, I got to figure this out. If you've ever gone and not been able to climb stairs before, you're like, I got to start practicing this. If you've ever been not good at relationships, you're like, maybe I should go start reading the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People and Connecting with People. Well, money was the same way. And once I realized I needed to go and solve that, I started studying. I went back to the things that I did do very well. And very interestingly enough, in the divorce or after the divorce, I ended up selling one of my properties. I ended up refinancing one of my properties. I did the BRRRR strategy and I did the sale thing. The BRRRR strategy, the refinance, I did the two-family with my brother. That helped me pay off all my debt for the marriage, the divorce. And then I invested money into my brother's fitness facility, his school, Amp Academy. You can Google it. It's for children learning parkour and Ninja Warrior. In that investment, I told him, I was like, bro, you took care of me during the divorce. You've helped refinance this. You get this $10,000, pay it back whenever you need it. And for doing that, whenever I sell this property, I'm going to give you an additional $5,000. I'm going to take care of you because you put your credit on the line. Because I had no credit. I couldn't refinance my own damn property. I owned it, but I couldn't refinance it because I had no credit because I went through a divorce and I jacked up my credit cards. Anybody make these mistakes? All right, so all of this leads to the need for incremental income, the awareness that I needed incremental income and I needed to get more of it. I was only living on $900, like $17,000 a year. It's terrible. It's a terrible experience. And I sold a whole bunch of real estate, but the real estate I was selling, I was such a low commission, such small properties. Things had to change. Next year, I discovered the idea of surges because of the sale of that three-family I originally bought. I sold it for $250,000. I bought it for $157,000. So I made over $150,000. I made over $150,000 because we paid down mortgage. I can't remember like all of the math of it. It was like 100, maybe it was 125,000 I walked away with. 125,000 I walked away from that property with. And I started using that huge surge to pay down $50,000 in credit card debt, to pay a pretty decent sized tax bill that came from that same year. And then I started buying two properties. I bought two properties with it. I bought a four-family and I bought a three-family with the same money that I had originally had locked into that. Now, if we listen to the surges thing, the first surge was my first property that I sold, the single family. Remember the 35,000? The second surge was 125,000. So thanks for catching this. And another surge was the refinance, right? And actually, so my second surge was that refinance. That 40,000 allowed me to do some things with my family, allowed me to, pay off some things and simplify myself. That third surge was at 125,000 that allowed me kind of more freedom to go and do things. What was really interesting around that time, I'd started learning this real estate business, but I'd also bought three more houses. So in 2017, 2014, I went through the divorce. 2017, I was finally 3 years out of this and like really doing really well. Now I made $90,000 as a realtor. I learned the skill by incremental growth, incremental learning, incremental education. I started getting these incremental streams of income, just little bit. But it was also real estate agency who, any show fans, if you know realtors, they're kind of an up and down kind of thing. So I don't look at that income as incremental so much as it's a surge, right? Because in January, I made nothing. In February, I made nothing. In March, I made like 3 grand. But in June, I made 15,000. In July, I made 22,000. And in August, I made 24,000. So these surges started coming in, plus the sale of those properties. In that year, I made $300,000 combined because of all my activities. Jeff fans, if we understand, 3 years from 17,000 to 300,000 is a huge jump, a huge jump. And that was due to surges, due to things that I was doing outside of my regular income. Now, my properties had gotten to the point where they're cash flowing $4,000 a month. Now, $4,000 a month is not a lot of money, but when you're as frugal as I was and you're living rent-free, $4,000 a month meant financial freedom for me. It meant that I could come and go as I pleased, which allowed me all this extra time to go and do these flips, to go and do these projects, to go and spend time managing my property and building my real estate agency. So fans for understanding the importance. It wasn't the surge that saved me. It was the incremental income that saved me. It was that the fact that that extra $1,400 a month I was spending no longer had to get spent. And then it was the extra $900 a month coming in that just gave me this kind of freedom to think a little differently, to go out and do some extra stuff. And then it was unit after unit after unit. Now, the surges helped me buy more units. The surges helped me get more freedom. And they were very necessary to really explode what I was doing. But it was the incremental income. It was the rental properties in the beginning when I didn't have money for rental properties, right? When I didn't have any kind of incremental surges, it was the owner-occupied first house I bought. That first house that I bought owner-occupied that I went and moved in, flipped, and did the work. Joe France, we understand the importance of incremental surges. Incremental income. Now, surges only work because this is what everybody wants. Everybody wants the big payday. Everybody wants the $300,000 year. Everybody wants the $1 million year, right? The $1 million month. And I've had $1 million months. And I want to explain that they take a long fucking time, right? Before we jump to surges, I want to emphasize that you need the incremental income to be able to spend the time on the surge. Show fans, that makes sense. Okay. So rental property is a great incremental income. Subscription services, membership services, anything that's kind of passive. Once you set it up, it kind of keeps coming in. But my preference has been rental property because it's consistent. It's simple enough to get going, and it doesn't depend on the market. I guess it doesn't depend on technology. It depends on the market in some levels, but it doesn't depend on like Bitcoin or internet or websites or the stock market. Like it literally just comes in because people always need a place to live. Show fans can understand why I choose real estate. It's stable-ish. It's of all the assets, it's the stablest. It's the stablest that pays because gold is stable as hell, but it doesn't pay anything. So real estate, incremental income. Shifting over to surges. There's some problems with surges and there's some benefits to surges. One of the problems is you pay taxes and they're hefty and they're fast, right? Surges come in, and when they come in, it's like you got to have something lined up in order to make sure you don't pay a tax on that surge. You can 1031 exchange in real estate, so you can delay it forward. But if you want to take some of the money out, you do what's called a partial 1031 exchange, where some you'll pay taxes on and some you won't. For you getting started in these surges, I want to go back to my story and remind you that I sold property that I held for a long time. I don't like paying income tax. Whenever you flip property, you pay income tax. You pay self-employed tax or real estate professional tax, and you pay self-employed tax. That's a lot of income tax. Show fans, if you understand, it's like 30%. It's a lot. And it becomes more and more the more you sell. What I do like is capital gains. If I'm going to pay taxes, I like capital gains tax because that's 15 to 20%. And the first, I think 47,000 or 40 something thousand, don't quote me on this, I'm not a tax professional, under 50 grand, somewhere in that space is free. They don't tax you on like the first 40 or 50,000. It's after that it becomes 15,000. And there's another tax bracket that goes pretty far, and it's somewhere around $500,000 that they shift over to 20%. So friends, we're saying you can get away with a lot in capital gains. Like the taxes are pretty damn low. So I prefer that strategy. And the only way to get that strategy is you got to hold the property as an investment. So you have to hold it long enough. As long as you rent it, as long as you rent out the asset, it's considered an investment. So you could, as long as you rent it out for 3 months, and that was the way you claimed on your taxes as a rental property, you could theoretically flip it pretty quickly and pay capital gains. But if you make that part of your system, they'll eventually catch that you're not doing it properly, and they're going to make you a professional. So, fancy way of saying the tax system is different. It's a whole thing. The incremental surges, we locked them. Now the incremental surges present the opportunity for big surges. Wow. Incremental income presents the opportunity for big surges. If you buy for incremental income and then an asset goes up in value, you can get a surge. If you always purchase your assets at a 20% discount and then you do forced appreciation for another 20% and you raise your rents over the years 4 times, 10%, 7% per year, you can increase the value of your property by 50%, or at least your equity position by 50%. After something like that is done over 4 years, by the way, appreciation, if it appreciates 5% per year, which it typically does, if it appreciates 5% per year, you can actually be into your property 70%, 71% equity. In a situation like that, if you sell the property, you're going to get a surge. So fans, we understand how it works. Your increments led to surges just by holding them and doing very well with them. You could 1031, or you could take some of the money. My suggestion is a mix. I don't think there's any hard right way to do it. Certainly an efficiency. There's certainly an efficiency to 1031ing everything. Just keep rolling the bucket and just keep going and going and going. But sometimes you want to invest in other assets. You may want to invest in the stock market as you get to a millionaire. You may want to invest in your business. My strong suggestion is invest in your business as you become more successful. So you may want to take some of the money and invest in businesses. You may want to get into lending. Like Ron and I have shifted over into lending. I think we have over $500,000 now lent out to other investors. And that we had to pay taxes on. But we did the math and we said the tax rate we paid, we lent out at 15%. The tax we got hit on that was about 15%. So this year, maybe we're lending for free, but next year, money is just coming in nice and easy, no matter what, unstoppable income from us being invested in other people's projects. So fans, you understand being the bank is the ultimate goal. It's part of the strategy. Another strategy with the surges is you don't have to sell the asset. You could also be the bank by borrowing against the asset and then putting that money to work in the street. So if we're borrowing in lower interest markets, if we're borrowing for 6% or 8% and you're lending for 12 or 15, there's an arbitrage there. So if we then that's now increments. Our surges brought us back to increments. The ability to create a surge instead of creating a income surge, we created a borrowed surge. We went and lent it out. Show of hands if you're committed to doing this year. At least setting up the pool, at least setting up the increments so that the surges can happen in the future. This is separate from your general streams of income. You still have to be in sales. I'll side note you here. Real estate aside, if you're in real estate as an investor, you also are either a coach, a realtor, a lender, an attorney, a accountant. You're one of these other spaces, or a wholesaler or flipper. You have an active income component to your business. Show fans that's true for you. You've got another stream. We call them operating companies. You got an operational company that makes money for you. That company can also operate in increments and in surges. And that's where you should be spending this first quarter of the year, is focusing on those deep relationships, because a lot of those relationships, especially if you're in the real estate space, will lead to more deals and they'll lead to more income. And they'll lead to more passive capital investors. Show fans if you'd like other people investing in your stuff. Focus on your main business right now. Focus hard on your main business next 3 months, maybe 6 months, and build relationships. Build more and more relationships with people who are interested in investing with you, and you'll start leading into the opportunity for more increments and more surges. Simply by focusing on one thing at all times, and that is being the best version of yourself and being the best investor and communicating clearly what you want to do. So fans, you've got a moment to commit to this. You want to do an activity together? Like to ensure that this locks in, that we definitely do it this year? All right, we're going to write down on a piece of paper. Pull out a piece of paper if you got one. This is not for us to drop in the chat. We're going to put down on a piece of paper a small incremental income. Small. We're not going to start with, okay, I want, by the way, I know all of you. $10,000 a month passive income. That's what I want. We're doing it now. I know that's your first instinct. Like, yeah, 10,000 passive. That's not the one, right? That's the one. Let's call it 3 years from now, right? We put that, in our minds 3 years from now. and we're going to cut it in half, and we're going to cut it in half. So let's put it down to something like $250,000, $2,500 a month passive income. We set some really small goal. You can't live on it. Like, I know that. I know you can't live on that. But we set that small goal of 2,500 a month of passive income. When you start thinking about it, how many units is that, right? Depending on your market, it's probably 10 to 20 units, right? Depending on how your market works, where you're at. That's 10 to 20 units. You start thinking about 10 to 20 units. You start focusing on 10 to 20 units. Maybe you start flipping a 10 to 20 unit, or you start wholesaling a 10 to 20 unit, or you start listing 10 to 20 units, or you start providing coaching services around people who are buying or investing in 10 to 20 units, and you start increasing your net worth and your network around that inventory type. So, if this makes sense. It's a small incremental step. And some of you are way beyond this, right? Some of you can do the 10,000 a month right now, right? If you've already got 5,000 passive, cool. Shift to, you go a little higher. If you're already in 10,000 a month passive, cool. Just shift to 20, right? Like, we can focus on doubling. But this simple strategy, I want you to write this down. I want you to visualize the units on the side. If you're syndicating, your unit changes significantly. For instead of 10 units, you need 100 units, right? If you're syndicating, and that's the space you're in. So unit count is 100% dependent upon your purchasing strategy. So hands up, that makes sense. I understand that it's all dependent upon how we finance, how we do what we do. We will talk more about that later today in Names on Deeds, because part of Names on Deeds is how do we finance deals? And I will be sharing 20 different ways to creatively finance property on Names on Deeds. Show fans if you want that screenshot. Yes, you got to show up, be there. I'll probably put it out towards the very end so that everybody stays all the way through. But it is worth being there for that component. Each one of you now has a number on the paper. Show of hands if you do. Show of hands, you got a number on the paper. Okay. In order to get that number, I want you to go and write down the number 100 on the side of it. I want you to put an X in between them. And I want to put an equal sign on the right side of that 100. And I want you to write down the number that says. Write down the number that says. So if it's 2,500, you just wrote down $2.5 million. When you wrote down that number, $2.5 million, I want you to drop in the chat, or whatever number you put, the times 100. I want you to drop in the chat. How did it make you feel? Like genuine first instinct, not the one you're thinking now. The first one, as soon as you start writing it, or as soon as your mind was like, fuck, I gotta write that, or damn, like whatever your first instinct was when you started writing that number or thought about writing that number, write in the chat. Write in chat. That's the how much per month did he say? Yes, 2,500. That's the basic. Then multiply it by 10. Multiply it by 100. Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. We got a whole bunch of different ones, and some people are just sending it to me so the rest of the group doesn't see it, but I will share them all with you. We've got so small. Let's go with exclamation points and big O's and small O's. Very exciting. Let's go. Holy crap. Wow. Exclamation points. Exhilaration, motivated, felt like, must go get it. Happy. Got to do it. Joe fans, if you can connect with any of these emotions. So we got 2,500, right? 2,500. We multiplied it by 100. And most of you got excited, right? That $250,000, right? That's the next level for most people. That $250,000 is very likely the down payment for this property. There's a very good chance that the down payment for this property is going to be about $250,000. And there's a good chance that you don't have that $250,000 in your bank account right now. Show of hands if that's true. Even if you were a millionaire and a multimillionaire, there's a good chance they didn't have that money sitting in your bank account, right? It's somewhere, you have it, you have the net worth, but it's not sitting right there. This allows you to start moving money in your mind. When you start doing an exercise like this, you start thinking, okay, now maybe the money's not in my bank account, maybe it's in my stock account, maybe it's in my 401k, maybe it's in an asset that I have, maybe I've got to do a refinance, maybe it's somewhere else, maybe it's in my parents' account, maybe it's in a friend's account, maybe it's in a stranger I've never met before's account. But the idea now is that there's a number out there that will allow you a great search. There's a number out there that you've written down now that is becoming your number. And Doug has us walk through these activities every week, but he's right now on a marketer's cruise. So I'm going to walk you through the concept of making that small incremental piece of income and that large surge lead to an even larger purchase of what's called $1 million property. If those are the numbers that you're working with, whatever number you're working with, I want you to now add another zero at the end of it, and that's probably what you're going to end up buying. That additional, not sorry, don't add another zero. Just hit it with the number 4. Multiply it by 4. So 4 times. Assuming we're getting a 20% down payment, 25% down payment, which isn't happening right now. So since we're in the multifamily space, hit it with 3. Hit it with 3. So you're buying a $750,000 house with $250,000 down. Show of hands if you understand commercial investors, down payment to 30%, some 35%. It's not what it used to be, but that's to protect the banks. And if the bank's protected, you're protected. So it's designed to make sure that you don't lose money and they don't lose money. Now that you've got this number in place, we can close our eyes, or we can just think about the concept very quickly of your capacity to hold money growing, your capacity to have conversations around this dollar amount growing. Think about that small little incremental income and saying, you know what, it's not that big, it's small, but I like to start where I belong. I like to start with spaces where I belong. And looking at the number that you 100x'd, and look at that number and starting to make that number feel small, just like the other number. I want you to start looking at that number and saying, you know what, all it is this number with 2 extra zeros. It's a simple concept. I'm going to be able to increase my income, and I'm just going to go and I'm going to grab money from a place that it currently is sitting, rusty, old, just sitting there, tired, getting deflated on, inflated upon, right? We're going to move it over into an asset that's going to give it a new purpose, new life, new invigoration. Wherever that money may be, it may not be in your specific bank account. I don't expect it to be, right? If it was, you would have already moved it. Show of hands if that's true. All right, so it's likely sitting somewhere else. It may be in somebody else's account, and maybe in one of your other accounts, maybe in a property you own. It may be in your business, right? We just did a business loan with Alchemist Financial for somebody $300,000. So they had in their business, they were earning decent income, and they needed money to go and pay back some vendors, and they needed some money to go and buy new equipment. So we went and we did the loan, and we were able to get them $300,000. So the money could be in different places that you just haven't thought about. So I want you to visualize that the money's already yours. It's a small dollar amount because you're backing it by real estate. Remember, banks love real estate, and people love real estate. Passive investors love real estate. So visualize moving this money into something small. That first goal. It's your first capital raise goal. And even if it's just moving money from one asset to another class, it's still a capital raise in my mind, right? Whenever I sold Bitcoin last week or the week before, and I moved that over into my cash assets section. I did a capital raise for myself. I went and I took money from crypto and I moved it into my bank account, which allows me to do other types of investments that make a lot more sense to me, like buying real estate. One of the deals I'm doing right now requires a $50,000 deposit. Hard, right? I could lose my deposit. $50,000. So I sold some Bitcoin to make sure that I can invest in that. Now, the rest of the money I'll probably raise through private capital and bring other investors in to do the deal. But that first deposit, right? I'm getting a huge return on investment. When you think about that 50,000, gives me access to a $5 million deal. So, does that make sense? That's huge return on investment. So, thinking outside of the box, I don't need the money for the down payments, but I do sometimes need the money for the deposits. That's important because if I get the deposit and I get the contract, now I can raise capital for the entire deal. Just think a little bit differently about the way we operate. We'll talk more about that in names on deeds later. So visualize now that this dollar amount is small. I want you to visualize more and more different ways that it could come to you. More and more different ways that it could come to you. It could be in an uncle's account. It could be in a mom's account. It could be in a stranger that you met who has been very successful in their business. It could be in your business. It could be in a stock account. It could be in a 401k. It could be in your bank account that you forgot about. Like, exciting to find those. You ever found that $100 in your wallet? It's like, wow, there it is. I forgot all about this. Or in the jeans. Now, as we're visualizing the purchase of the property, I want to slide to this next space. I want you to assume you already have the down payment. The money's already gone. It's super easy. Visualize the property. Visualize the rental property that pays that passive income. Remember, we're going back to that beginning number. And we want to appreciate the beginning number. We want to appreciate and be thankful for the fact that this asset is bringing that money in. It might be 10 units, might be 20 units, might be 40 units. If you're a syndicator, it's probably 100 units or 200 units. I want you to visualize the property, put it down on a piece of paper, the feelings and emotion you feel around managing it, the feelings and emotions you feel around owning it. And by the way, make sure one of them is gratitude. Make sure that thankfulness, gratitude, joy around owning the assets. And as we're doing it, I want you to write on the left side of the building, where however you visualize, you make a block or you get peaks or whatever. But I want you to make the building, and then I want you to underneath the emotions, and I want you to put on the left side of the building the fact that it's got increments. But I also want you to put on the right side of the building because everything goes up and to the right over time in real estate, over time, long time sometimes. I want you to put surges. So increments and surges are what that asset represents for you. I want you to visualize in your mind that the asset represents increments and surges, so it's worth it, even if it's just the first asset you have to acquire this year. And I say this year because I know most of you have already acquired other assets. So this year, this is the next one we're looking for, the next increment, the next chunk to your portfolio. If you've never bought anything, cool. It's the first one. It's what it is. Wherever you're at, I want you to visualize that this property is yours. And it's also important to do. I know so many people who are like, one day I'll buy real estate. One day I'll wait for the market to get better. I'll wait for this. I'll wait for that. You can't wait on rental property. Rental property, you do just have to buy. You just have to buy. You have to make sure it cash flows. So I'm going to ask you to solemnly swear you will not buy garbage. Put it to your hands to the camera. I will not buy garbage. Just say it right out loud. Yeah, I do. I will not buy garbage. There you go. I swear to never buy a bad deal. Excellent. Very good. And on the other side, well, mentally, I commit to always buying cash flow. All right, I trust you. I trust you. So you're invited to come to Names on Deeds later today. It starts at 12 o'clock. Make sure you get some food, make sure you get some lunch. We're probably going to go 3 hours straight. Vinny's going to come in around 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So we're an hour and 20 minutes away from the start of Names on Deeds. And then Vinny is 2.5 hours away from his start of his session where he's going to be evaluating deals, showing you how his calculator works. If you're in the mastermind or in mastery or you're in the mentorship, you have access to the calculator already. So you'll be able to pull it up. You'll be able to practice along with us. I've invited Mitch Jorsky to be there with me so that he can learn how to use the calculator. He already uses it very well, but we can ask Vinny questions. So we may be asking Vinny questions around his calculator. Show fans if it's all right if we're humbling ourselves as well. He's got a big calculator. There's a lot of numbers that are going on in it. So that is my strong suggestion is you invite a friend. Invite a friend, invite a business partner, invite somebody who you believe could be an asset for you in the future, or a family member who you just want to get a little bit of knowledge, but you don't want it coming from you. You'd like somebody else to kind of teach it, if you know what I'm talking about. I've had a lot of family members who don't listen to anything I say. In fact, even my brother, when he went to buy his first property, he's like, "What's equity, Walter?" And I, for a moment, thought I had failed him. I was like, "What do you mean you don't know what equity is?" But later on, he did learn, and he's become a millionaire from the short time. He actually went through the mentorship program. So he's on the call, but let's give my brother a big round of applause. He did go through the mentorship program. Gary says, "Are you recording? I'd like to watch it with my kids. Just can't do it today." Yes, I will obviously be recording. And if I get a vote, I will go live stream on the Alchemist Nation Facebook channel. Who'd like Names that needs to go live streamed? Just in case you want to watch it immediately afterwards? Okay. Well, in that case, I will do that. And we're going to just shift to the book of the week because every week these principles have a book that goes along with them. And me and Mike spent so much time putting these books together, and Mike has done so much work to make sure these books are the right book for you so that you can get to the goals that you have. And so this week's book of the week is actually a book that Jennifer Sullivan loves as well. Let's give Michael Shine a big round of applause. He's the holistic attorney. He is our closer, and he's the keeper of the books. Michael Shine. What is this week's book of the week?
This week's book of the week is the 12-week year by Brian P. Moran and Michael Lennington. This is a great book for surges because it's interesting. It seems so simple, but rather than having a 12-month year, which is what most people do, and then what they do is they start January 1st with New Year's resolutions, like they say they're gonna go to the gym, which usually ends like January 17th. Hopefully that's not you, but anyway.
It's coming. I can't wait to have the gym back. It's going to be awesome. So many benches freed up.
And then as the year goes along, you kind of meander through it, July, August, oh, let's just chill out. And somewhere in November, you're like, shoot, all those goals that I wrote back in December or January, I didn't do any of them. So they have to work really hard. So Brian, he discovered this in the insurance industry. He was training insurance people, and this is what they would do. They would be all excited in January, and then they wouldn't do anything with their goals until they were freaking out in November. So he came up with the idea that rather than a 12-month year, you should have a 12-week year. And just that little subtle shift makes you accomplish everything so much more quickly, because every day from January 1 to March 31st is important. You cannot take off a month in between or you won't accomplish. And he was having these huge Fortune 500 insurance companies where the people were not achieving goals, suddenly blowing their goals out of the water, because they knew by March 31st, and then the next year starts April 1st. And so it's an amazing book. It's really a really cool one for shifting your mindset about getting things done. So I highly recommend 12-week year. He was mentioning Jen Sullivan because she had a whole group for a little while that was doing the 12-week year and crushing it. It's an easy read. Read it in a couple of days, but it's super valuable, and it really gets you to see that you can prioritize accomplishing things quickly rather than waiting till November or December 25th or 6th. Thank you. That's the 12-week year.
Let's give Michael Shine a big round of applause. He is the keeper of the books, the holistic attorney, the closer. In fact, he closed another real estate deal for us this week. So we appreciate you, Michael, and your team, Jessica, and I forgot the one with an M.
Megan.
Megan's
getting married this week. Yay.
Let's give Mike and his team a big round of applause. They crushed the title side for us. Poor Larry Steinhaus. He didn't use them, so now he's struggling. But he will get out of it.
Next RV park, Larry.
This principle is for you to leverage. It's not for you to feel guilty about. It's not for you to feel bad about. It's literally designed so you have an understanding of where you are today and where you're going to go. Everybody wishes they were further ahead. Everybody wishes they were at another level. Everybody wishes they had more increments. Everybody wishes they had more surges. So fans, if you agree, you wish you had more, right? Yeah. But if wishing worked, we'd all be rich. We know that it comes from some principle. There's a principle behind all of this. And what we're doing here on the 52 Weeks to Wealth is we're building what we call a strategy, a plan, a framework, a blueprint, a way for you to frame the way success actually occurs. So every week we stack another principle on top of each other. And every week the principles start working with each other. It's kind of like that book, the Habits books, Atomic Habits, or any one of those books that kind of points out small incremental habits and skills will actually get you to the next level. Next week's principle is to double down on your marketing. The week before was track and focus on your net worth. The week after is alleviate a frustration of experienced by a large enough group of people who are willing to pay enough to make it worth it. It's a lot of principles actually all together in one there. The way we're going means you don't have time to implement this next week. Does that make sense? It must be implemented now. You have to visualize now. You have to set your goals now on what this asset class is going to be, what market you're going to be in, what strategy you're going to be operating with, how you're going to be finding and connecting with clients, customers, and potential capital raisers and potential deal flow folks. Names on Deeds today, we're going to go into all of the steps for the 7 steps of how to buy real estate, the 7 steps of Names on Deeds. We're going to review it for you, and we're going to set up the process for you. Next week, we're coming back in and we're going to double down on our marketing. So fans, if we understand, it's going to be a very tactical training. It's going to be a very marketing heavy training. So if marketing scares you, definitely show up. If marketing doesn't scare you and you suck up every piece of marketing, well, you're going to be fucking rich. That's just how it works. The world is based on marketing and sales, right? If you can't close, well, it doesn't matter how much audience or attention you have. Look at all those influencers who have no money. I've met many influencers with 300,000 followers, a million followers, and they're like, yeah, I haven't figured out how to fucking monetize. Are you shitting me? You don't know how to monetize? In fact, we had one at the summit 2 years ago, and she was amazing person, million followers. And she was like, yeah, I still haven't really figured out how to make money on this. I was like, you had what? You don't, Show of hands if you'd know what to do real quick, right? So let's get the marketing figured out. Next week, we're going to dive in a little bit deeper. For this week, I want you to think about for a moment who in your life could use your help? Who in your life could you use their help? And if that person lines up, if they need you and you need them, and you need them for this real estate goal that we just set aside, this achievement goal of increments and surges, this property asset acquisition goal, I want you to invite them to Names on Deeds to come along with you. Build an asset. We will record it, so you can always send them back to the recording. But what I've discovered is people don't watch recordings, which is why we do the live stuff where you can actually interact and have these conversations. Show fans, you ever bought a digital course you didn't take? Yeah. Show hands, anybody ever sent? Yeah, tens of them, right? Show hands, if anybody's ever sent you a video you didn't watch? Yes. But who here pays more attention when you're on a call? When you're on a live call, everybody's there, camera's turned on, you're engaged. It's like, I've got to now learn, I've got to now consume, I'm stuck here, right? Just the mind does so much better in these situations. So my strong suggestion is actually invite anybody who you want to be underwriting property for you, to be evaluating property for you, to be raising capital for you, which, by the way, you don't have to be the only capital raiser in your business. Somebody else could bring the capital. You could have other people do it. If somebody who you'd like to be finding you properties, like they know how to find properties. We're going to be talking about all of these things in Names on Deeds. If you've got wholesalers or realtors who are bringing you garbage, we want them on Names on Deeds so we can teach them how to not bring you garbage. Maybe get them a calculator so they now know this is how these deals are supposed to look. When I send this to this investor, I'm actually being more respectful by sending them with this calculator. So friends, if you'd love deals to come in a calculator you already know. Wouldn't that be amazing? So Names on Deeds, we're going to show the way. I want to open up to questions because you and your questions are what makes this community worth being a part of. Without questions, we would just be another training company. But with you and your experience and your problems, now we're a community. Now we're a tribe that's developing and growing. So first to unmute wins. Also, let's give Johnson and Amadi a round of applause. I see Austin, Texas in the room. I love it. All the way from Austin. Very cool. First to unmute wins. In fact, before we do them, while you're thinking about unmuting, Mitch, can you get us a rap quote? A rap quote of the, I mean, surges and increments. I have a feeling every rapper has talked about this on some level.
Oh, that wasn't really in my headspace. But if you're gonna put me on the spot, then I'm just gonna cop out and go with the mainstream quote everyone knows. Except for we rephrased it because Biggie said, "More money, more problems." But we know in real estate we make money solving problems, so it's more problems, more money, which we're learning right now with some deals.
That's true. We are doing another deal. What are we down to that deal? 3 million now?
At least 3.5.
At least 3.5.
But lower,
Man.
listen, the lower the better. I'm always down.
Yeah, we're finding out that this deal was in receivership. The more we dig, the more we learn. We discovered this deal was in receivership, and the government, the state or the city of Jackson requires that they fill up the units, and they didn't, and that just expired in December. So now we know why this guy needs to sell so fast. Now we understand like why he's in pressure to sell. So now we're really not too concerned about satisfying his price. We're more concerned about satisfying our price. So we were going to say, well, we're just going to walk away, whatever. This guy's not negotiating with us, but we just said, yeah, well, here's where we can actually make it work. This is our number now, because we found out the ARV in the market is $40,000, $40,000 per unit. We were thinking, because the broker told us, we were thinking it was like 50,000, 55,000, because we were looking at, lower cap rates. And it wasn't until we had a property manager from the market, an actual property manager who has another actual case study that he could actually tell us the value on. He told us, no, this is a $40,000 per unit market. And so we had to change all of our numbers. We went back and now it looks very different. Now the thing, man, it cash flows. We're talking double digit cap rates. We really like the market more now. It's just absolutely insane. So Mitch said this. He's like, man, it doesn't look like there's a lot of appreciation on it, but there's a lot of cash flow on it. Speaking my language, bro. Let's go. So first unmute wins. Let's do Q&A. We'll do some questions or shares. I love stories of either increments or surges coming into your business. Yeah, trust but verify. Exactly, Mitch. Due diligence is very important. We'll probably talk more about that in names on deeds. A little bit on the due diligence, some of the things that we do to make sure that we don't get a bad deal. Wins, shares, opportunities. First, unmute wins. And if you don't have questions,
I'm getting 13 grand back in my mobile home park.
13 grand from a closing, right? You're walking
This is
away
my
with
life.
money.
This is my life. Put any money down, I get money back.
That's right. So you put your
This one's
deposit
gonna make
down,
about 3 grand a month. What deposit?
no deposit. Yeah, you're breaking up, Larry. Your boat must be going into a non-service area.
What deposit? I never put a deposit down.
So no deposit, and then you walked away with 13,000 at the closing. And how many units you're buying?
It's 8, and then we could add 3 more. And we'll add 3 more soon. But the cash flow on this thing, when we're done with it, is like $3,500 a month positive cash flow. I mean, before the extra 3.
It's a mobile home park.
Home park, yeah.
First time doing one of these deals?
A mobile home park, yes.
Pretty cool.
This is an easy one. Yeah, it's kind of fun. And it all happened because I went to the 100 Millionaire Summit.
Isn't that strange? Oh, now we can tell the story. Okay, we can tell the story. So those of you who didn't come to the 100 Millionaire Summit this year and didn't get to hear Larry Steinhaus share the story of how he found this deal, he was there at the summit. And out in the entryway, there was a veteran, there was some sort of charity that was being run. And the woman who ran the charity owned a mobile home park. And Larry went out, he was talking to her, having a conversation. He was like, yeah, I'm speaking at this real estate event. And she was like, oh, I also own real estate. And he's, showing interest and whatever. One thing leads to another. She wants to sell the mobile home park. And Larry later on gets on stage and says, I think I might have a deal here, but I'm not going to tell you anything about it until, after it closes. A whole year goes by. He closes after the summit. So a year went by locking this deal down, going through the relationship, but he's got under agreement. He knows it's going to close. And at the summit, he reveals, yeah, she was sitting right out there in the hallway running a charity for veterans. And every one of you walked by that charity and didn't talk to her, didn't do anything, like just walked right by. There was an opportunity to buy real estate because this woman was leading a charity and she was literally willing to talk to anybody. And every single person at the 2022 summit walked by that opportunity. Show of hands if you walked by that opportunity, missed it. Awesome. Yeah, I know I saw the face like, oh man, yeah, I would know exactly what you're talking about, don't you? Let's give Larry Steinhaus a big round of applause for executing.
Right. So I gave her $100 cash in a donation jar that had like $6 in it. And then when I got up on stage, I said to everybody, hey, go see her and give her $100 and tell her I told you to. And I think 2 of the people gave it $100 and walked away and didn't talk to her. So for $100, okay, I'm sorry. Actually, you could say I put $100 down on this deal, Galder.
See that? You put $100 down on the deal. You put $100 into a charity. Into a charity. Joe France, we understand it's all about relationships. The money is all around you. The deals are all around you. You're just walking by them. You're just walking by because your eyes haven't been opened. After today's exercise, my hope is that your eyes are now open to what is possible. Now that you've written down what the asset looks like, now that you've written down what it can do for you in your life, you have a why now, a reason to do it. I want you to be able to now look and talk to people, letting them know that this is something you're looking for. What you talk about, you bring about. What you think about, you bring about. What you focus on expands. What you track, you get more of. The more conversations you track about this asset class, this inventory, this investment, the more likely you already get somebody to bring you one. The more, once you do lock it down, the more you talk about it, the more likely you're to bring in partners who can either manage it or fund it for you. The more you think about and focus on this particular asset class, this particular asset itself, the more likely you are to manifest it into your life. Show of hands if we understand that's how it works. You can't get around the law of attraction, right? You can't get it. But I want you to be cautious because there is something called the law of detachment. So I don't want you to hold on to it so tightly that you're afraid to talk. I want you to loosely talk about the asset class, loosely talk about the investment, loosely talk about the deal, and enjoy the fact that you're buying it. Names on Deeds starts in an hour and 3 minutes. Go get yourself some food, get yourself some snacks, invite some people. Go ahead, Michael.
I just wanted to point out that I was saying this in the 20 minutes before we started, that humans tend to be wired so they think about negative things when their brain just kind of stops. But you can take something like this idea of something that gets you really excited, like a property that you want to own, or maybe a house over in Europe or something like that. And every time that your brain goes to that negative spot, replace it with what Walter's saying, the stuff that you just wrote down, the something that gets you excited. And that'll raise your vibration, which will attract these things towards you. So instead of spending your day being attracted, having negative things attracted to you, you'll spend your day having positive things attracted to you. And you'll be blown away how quickly the stuff that you wrote down will come to you if you focus on it morning, noon, and night. I mean, anytime you see someone successful, they always ask them, well, did you ever expect this? And they always say, no, and not in a million years. And so for you to get the one asset you want, it could be tomorrow. It could be a phone call later today. It could be like Larry said. Larry just walked up to some woman because he was being kind. I mean, people's lives change on a dime, but I really think it's your vibration and the way that you think about positive things, and you'll attract positive things.
Let's give Michael Shine a round of applause. That's why we call him the holistic attorney, isn't it? Awesome. Every one of you has an opportunity every day. Every day is a new opportunity. Just because yesterday didn't work out doesn't mean today can't be completely different. Today likely has a better chance of being different because we're all connected together right now with a singular cause to double your net worth, double your income, and to do it with less work. I want you to grasp the concept of the 5 skills we're going to talk about in Names on Deeds today. We're going to talk about the importance of your burning desire, your passion, your ability to motivate yourself, inspire yourself. We're going to talk about communication. The number one skill necessary to be rich and successful in real estate is communication. We're going to talk about your network, how to increase and qualify the people who are going to be either your tenants, your contractors, your partners, or your capital investments, strategic relationships. We're going to talk about business acumen, right? The importance of efficiency and effectiveness in scaling your real estate business. If you don't scale, you stay at the same level, which is not cool. Staying small is not acceptable in this community. And the 5th is multifamily. With that skill set, with the understanding of multifamily, gets you out of that small space of single family homes or condos that aren't paying enough, and they are so freaking far apart, and the maintenance is so high on them. With multifamily, it's just so much better for you to get that passive income. And if you look at all the wealthiest people on the planet, they store their wealth over here in this thing called multifamily. Even Warren Buffett, right? Even the big guys, they're buying BlackRock, right? They're buying it all up because it makes a lot of sense. Cheers to your success when you have a choice. Always work with the best. And the question on where the link is, it's in the newsletter we sent you. We send you one email per week, and in that email, all the way at the bottom, is the link for Names on Deeds. If you don't have it, go request to get the email. Go to I Build Millionaires and make the request. But you should be on the newsletter. So fans, if you do have it, you get the email from us every week. You know how to get there. Awesome. In that case, cheers to your success. When your choice, always work with the best. I'll see you at 12.